Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. We are here in Santo Domingo. Hopefully my echo is better. I've filled the room. I have my arm, my mic arm. We are uh, we are here, and we're gonna figure out. Also, there's no super chats again tonight. I don't have approval to work in Santo Domingo yet, so this is another freebie. So anyway, let's talk about the wall. So the situation at the wall is so confusing that very few people talk about it, and we kind of just hope that either the Weeper or the others just destroy everything because it's kind of out of control and contradictory what's going on. The end of A Dance with Dragons happens only over a few days. Like when you go from like John 11, 12, and 13, uh, you can maybe stretch things to like a week, 8 days, 9 days, but it's very difficult to go further than this when it comes to the timeline. We hear about Tormund coming in a couple days. He takes 3 days crossing, and then he's supposed to leave in a couple days to go to his seat and back, which only takes a day. So the whole thing is just not that long. But then we hear about all these forts popping up really fast. So here we go. This is the wall right now, and you're gonna find like, first of all, don't check the wiki. The wiki is horrible on the wall, and that's mainly because the A Song of Ice and Fire app had a bunch of information in it that is just kind of weird and like doesn't make any sense. But the app was this cash grab that had various information. So what we kind of know about the wall is from John 11, and let's go to John 11 for a second here. We kind of hear here that John says the Watch had garrisons at Icemark, Long Barrow, Sable Hall, Greyguard, and Deep Lake. Even this is a little weird coming from John, because how he got Long Barrow and Sable Hall. No, I'm sorry, Sable Hall and Deep Lake going is kind of a mystery. But like when he had the men or the time to have that happen, but it just happens. Like you hear a bit about Greyguard and Icemark early in the story, and obviously like there's construction going on at the Night Fort. But this gets all super complicated. So let's go through these forts one by one, because that's what you motherfuckers want, right? You guys want to hear about painstaking stuff on each of these forts. Okay, let's start at the Bridge of Skulls and West Watch by the Bridge. So in case West Watch by the Bridge sounds a little weird to you, it's because it's never mentioned in the text of A Song of Ice and Fire. It is only on the map, and that's so when you hear like West Watch by the Tower, well, that's because no one has ever mentioned it in text. So and so if you've read the books a million times, you're like, West Watch by the wall, by the bridge, West Watch by the bridge. Yeah. Nonetheless, though the app says that there's people manned at West Watch by the Bridge, there's no one manned at West Watch by the Bridge. There's contradiction even on what side of the gorge and where West Watch is. So we'll just forget about West Watch. So at the Shadow Tower, we know we have the kind of a standard Night's Watch complement, and with Dennis Mallister. So Dennis Mallister is here. Let's see if we can get this looking a little better, a little clearer here. Can we change this color to something that's a little darker? There we go. Anyway, so we have our standard Night's Watch people at the Shadow Tower. Not many of them. I think if we're like based on, you can kind of base things off the election Jon Snow, and we kind of know that there's just not that many people at the tower, but they've got about, you're kind of guessing that maybe they have 60 people. Like, it's not many. It's not many at the Shadow Tower. Meanwhile, this is where we also know that the Weeper is coming in. And the Weeper, again, we don't really know how many the Weeper has, but considering there's like supposed to be 100,000 wildlings, and say 5,000 followed Tormund and 5,000 followed Mother Mole, the Weeper has anywhere from 5,000 to 80,000 people. We have no clue, but the Weeper is an issue, and the Weeper is here, and he is perhaps the most powerful and least talked about dude around. What do we got? We got any? Can we make let's make the Weeper a big deal. I don't know. Let's try to change the background color here. I'm sorry. To something that's a little more interesting than black. Can I get me some colors? Can I give me some colors? There we go. The Weeper. I don't know if red is really the right one because I'm gonna have Stannis in there too, right? Stannis forces. So let's go with some green. All right. So the Weeper. So the Weeper is gonna cause some trouble here. All right. So then we have Dennis Mallister and his pathetic force at the Shadow Tower. Now we also have the Grey Guard, which was reestablished, and so we know that what's going on here. There we go. So Grey Guard has been manned. It does not have many men. I think he talks about like 20 men and 10 men from Stannis or something. So let's also do that. Let's put some Stannis men here. It's interesting though that we have something that's both Night's Watch and Stannis at Greyguard. Ooh, that's very red. But nonetheless, we got some Stannis. Can we edit this text? Give that a good S for Stannis. All right. So that's happening at Greyguard. And then also, I think at Icemark, we got the same situation here. Okay. We got like 20 dudes and like 10 Stannis dudes. Okay. At Icemark. Then we got the Night Fort. Now the Night Fort was under construction, but it's supposedly, and so it's not really a manned castle. I don't know what they're doing there, but we know that there's at least a bunch of builders, and Awful Yarwick says that the wildlings have like strong backs and stuff. So it seems he must be using some of the wildlings that crossed over with Stannis. So I want to say again, the Night's Fort is kind of a Night's Watch, and we'll call these. I'm going to call them Herrick wildlings because Herrick is Harma Doghead's brother, and he is a traitor. I mean, he's a traitor to the wildlings. He crosses over with Stannis, so he's like a Stannis aligned wildling, if that exists, right? I don't know if that's really like an accurate thing, but let's change the color because they're not Weepers, but let's change this to like a W for wildling here. So we got some blue here. So that's construction at the Night Fort. And then at Deep Lake, we hear about Deep Lake at the end, like John saying that they have it going, and he considers throwing Herrick there. He's not sure if he's going to send him to Deep Lake or I think Sable Hall, but he decide, let's just assume that Herrick ends up at Queen's Gate. All right, this is getting. So then we got Castle Black. Castle Black is a big mystery. We don't know who is. Oh no, I'm sorry. Queen's Gate. Let's see, where are we? No, Queen's. I'm sorry. Deep Lake. I'm sorry. It gets crowded here. Deep Lake is the one that Herrick is at. And then Queen's Gate, that's given completely, utterly over to White Mask, Morna White Mask, right? I'm gonna look up Queen's Gate for a second. Right, I just want to make sure that that my memory is correct. Correct that it's Morna. Yeah, it's Morna. Morna White Mask. So we got Morna. She completely, utterly has Queen's Gate. It's getting crowded here. Okay. And then on the other side of Castle Black is Oakenshield. And Oakenshield, I think, was given to Long Spear. What's his face? Let's look that up. Long Spear. That's wait, am I let me think here. Oakenshield. Not to be confused with the island in the south. What? No, that's Tormund's. What am I thinking? That's Tormund is at Oakenshield. I should have remembered that. But Tormund isn't there, and Tormund brings most of his men, but not all of his men, because he promises more. We're just gonna, because Tormund is stuck somewhere else, we'll just give that another W for Wildlings. So, oh man, this is getting too big, and I'm sorry. Am I screwing up here? It's hard to move around these if I make them too small. Okay. Woods Watch by the Pool, not manned. Sable Hall. Sable Hall is the one where he's thinking about giving it to Harma's brother, Herrick. And so that's, again, we're not sure what's going on there. And then Rhymegate, not manned. And then Longbarrow is where Iron Emmett is, and Dolorous Ed, but they're kind of compromised because we know that that's the Spearwife one. They're kind of compromised because we know that Iron Emmett is banging the Spearwives, and Dolorous Ed is not exactly a fighter. And then we get to Greenguard. I'm sorry, the Torches. Nothing is not manned. And then we get to Greenguard. Greenguard is manned by Devon Sealskin. And then finally Eastwatch by the Sea is Night's Watch, but they've got all those giants and mammoths that are supposed to be coming around. and Cotter Pike, I think he went on, but again, 50 dudes. So this is a very important question, Mike, because I've thought about this a bit. You can definitely, so if we look at this map here, whether or not Bowen Marsh is successful at Castle Black is kind of irrelevant, but because you can kind of see that Castle Black is completely surrounded by wildlings. Like, even if, there's no way they can defeat forces from both sides coming in. And then the ones after that are filled with wildlings as well, even if there's some mixture of Night's Watch. But Long Barrow, Greenguard, like, even if like the Night's Watch is able to fend off Sable Hall and Oakenshield, then you just got more beyond that. You've got Devon, you've got the Spearwives. Like, looking at this, like, the Night's Watch was so boneheaded in their mutiny. It was just absolutely boneheaded in their mutiny. I don't know how, like, even if they win the day and they burn down all of the wildlings and the wildling chieftains and slaughter every single one of them. The problem is that even down the King's Road, you've got the wildlings at Molestown, right? That's all wildlings. And you've got the Thens, right? Who are like, all of them went to Carhold or whatever. I mean, maybe it'll take a while for them to get back, but nonetheless, you're in a very, very bad situation. It was super boneheaded, right? So Eastwatch is in trouble because it's all by itself. It looks like, well, for lack of a better word, we'll say Tormund and Tormund aligned, like wildlings are pretty strong in the East here. The Night's Watch, has the West and a few of Stannis, but it's kind of weird because they have a few of Stannis's men mixed in, and Stannis's men would not be happy with what's going on over there. So this is kind of a weird political situation of having both Night's Watch and Stannis, but and then you've got the Weeper forces. So even if Bowen Marsh were successful in, killing everybody off, I'm trying to think of like ways that Bowen Marsh could possibly win. I mean, he could possibly say, okay, maybe these new garrison castles like exist, but they don't have access up to the wall. Like, maybe they haven't constructed staircases yet, and they're just castles on the ground. And the Night's Watch could go on top of the wall and shoot down, but then the wildlings would just, go 300 meters or whatever, like south of the wall, and be like, okay, fine, we don't have your castles, we just left, and just leave. So, I'm trying to think how this battle could work. Like, I think Castle Black is just lost. Now, the question is, will the Night's Watch continue to fight the wildlings from the other direction? Or I was thinking if, okay, the show has a situation where Melisandre is captured by the Night's Watch, and then later the wildlings take them, right? So say Bowen Marsh is successful and just wants to go west, and they immediately attack Morna Whiteface, White Mask, and they consolidate here, and then but he would have to keep the Stannis people on his side, because then he's hitting Stannis men. Now, the one thing, what percentage of the Night's Watch is in on the mutiny? We have no idea. But generally speaking, it seems to be the stewards and the builders with the rangers being out of the out of the loop. But I don't think Eastwatch or Shadow Tower would be in on it. So all in all, at most the mutiny people would be 200 people at most. I mean, and maybe maybe they had an advantage on top of the wall, but it's tough. Now, the one advantage, the one thing that I can see the Shadow Tower and Eastwatch and Bowen Marsh having an advantage over, if Bowen Marsh even survives this, is the hostages. They took 100 hostages, children of wildlings, and they sent them off. The ones probably arriving at Eastwatch, they're probably still in transit, but they've made it probably as far as, Icemark or whatever. The hostages are probably this, are far enough out of wildling hands. So they've got 30, I think there's 30 hostages going to Eastwatch and 30 going to Shadow Tower. So you could argue that maybe some of the wildlings would care about their children and lay off of the Night's Watch and not attack because they don't want their children killed. But that's all I can think of there. But I don't know how these battles would go down because, again, like, the King's Men are right here in the middle here at Castle Black, and you got Night's Watch here. And the King's Men and the Wildlings, I mean, the Queen's Men, King's Men, Queen's Men, they seem to be aligned with the Wildlings. So it seems like they would be able to maybe get the entire wall except for the Shadow Tower and Eastwatch. And because Shadow Tower and Eastwatch have the hostages. So maybe the Wildlings would just end up conquering everything in between. But then, would they have use for everything in between? I don't know. Yeah, impulsive decision made in the spur of the moment. Bowen probably doesn't have any plan for what happens next. That's the thing, is I'm just trying to think like how he would do it. Like, when you've got 200 men at most, how do you deal with Molestown? You just pretend Molestown doesn't exist and you just attack Morna in the middle of the night, or something, and go quickly, rooting them out as fast as you can. But man, I just don't see how that could be possible, at all. But it just seems like the Wildlings have already conquered the wall. John already gave away Queensgate, Oakenshield, and Greengard. So like, what do you do? And then Long Barrow and Sable Hall and Queensgate and Deep Lake, these all seem to be Wildling castles too. So I don't know how it's going to go. Now, one could say that this is really, really confusing and it doesn't matter because the Weeper is just going to come in and just kill everybody, and it doesn't freaking matter that this is just all, or that the others will come in and sweep it, and it all doesn't matter. But there it is. I will, I guess I'll leave this up for now in case it comes up later, because this is a lot of stuff here. But blocking that anyway. So what else do we okay, this is an interesting idea. Blame the Wildlings for Jon's stabbing. It's a good idea. The problem is that Melisandre exists, and we know that Melisandre's not dying. Like, Melisandre is our point of view. And she's not going to lie. Was she lie to people and be like, no? Because Stannis's plan has always been to use the Wildlings as his army. He had no army. He goes north to get an army made up of Wildlings. And so that was kind of always his plan. It gets delayed because there's this trade, like John's like, leave the Wildlings with me and I'll tell you how to get more people. You can have the northern clans. And Stannis is like, okay, good trade. But nonetheless, like there's still this effort by Selyse to have friendships and marriages with the Wildlings. So it's all still a plan. We hear about Raymond Redbeard and his daughters and things like this, and giving people castles and trying to make wildlings into lords and all this kind of idea. Or like even the Fens, like Melisandre, like overseeing the wedding between the Fens and Alice Karstark is definitely a Stannis effort of Stannis wildlings. Like Stannis is the leader of the wildlings kind of thing. So we'll Mel had the daggers in the dark vision. Then again, she's usually wrong about half of this. I think that it's funny if she does see it's like that's a legit thing, right? She definitely sees the skulls, right? Mel, like, it would be really funny if you get because first of all, when we get to Mel's perspective, which is coming, it's coming soon. It's coming 2025. We're doing the Mel chapter. We're gonna get Mel's perspective. But one of the things I love about the Mel chapter is you get into her head and she's like, actually, more than half the stuff I do is bullshit. And it would be really funny if she's like, I made up the daggers in the dark thing. But she does see skulls, I think. Let me see what she actually says here. She says, shadows came in the shape of skulls. Skulls remain. Skulls are death. She said the flames crackled. His long face floated before her, lined in tongues of red and orange, appearing and disappearing again, a shadow half seen behind a fluttering curtain. Now he was a man, now a wolf, now a man again, but the skulls were here as well, and the skulls were all around him. Melisandre had seen his danger before. He tried to warn the boy. Enemies all around him, daggers in the dark. He would not listen. So I guess she legitimately did see daggers in the dark or something. So, that's a real prophecy that she saw. But it'd be very funny if like she just made it up. She's like, yeah, I made that stuff up. But there's precedent to kill Lord Commanders when they break their oath on mission. Assume that Marsh would use this technicality of defense. Absolutely. I mean, there's been wars. There's been wars on the wall before. In fact, I think that's the thing is there a is there a precedent for the towers went to war, right? Didn't that because John's talking about a history, or maybe it's Sam, where they're talking about one of the forts going to war with another. Oh, maybe people can remind me which tower went to war with which tower, but I think that's happened. Nice argument, Red Witch. Why don't you back it up with a source? That's the thing. My source is I made it up. That's true. Mel also thinks the Wildlings are doomed people, so if they get blamed for John's death, then they're wiped out. She's just like, well, I predicted that. That's kind of true. whenever I envision the events after the walls collapse, it's too small of a time frame to be the length of a dream of spring. I'm not I'm not of the opinion that the wall will 100% fall in the the winds of winter. Yeah, I'm split. I'm split on this because so all of this, like, and I talked about this last week when with Trey, like Trey made the point, like John is like that George was seeding something. Like, why did he waste all this freaking time, like giving us the names of all of these stupid wildling chieftains and and their crazy personalities? You know, why the great walrus and seal skin, Borak the boar, and all of these things. And Trey's idea was just that you'd think it just as characters to be in the battle, but also people wonder, like, are these going to be characters who are going to be manning forts and having battles at different forts? And it's important for us to know all of these different characters, or is it just the same as George talking about food, where he's just listing people to add color, you know, in the same sense that he's talking about buttered beets or whatever, and it doesn't really matter at all. And so I'm a little torn. You know, is he seeding or is he just coloring and filling space? I mean, keep in mind, this is also a George who is writing really fast. John 13, 12, I mean, John 11, 12, and 13 are written incredibly fast and he's just whipping through chapters, and he probably wasn't thinking. Because I'll tell you, the time periods don't make sense and they're sloppy. Like when John's talking about forts being up and people being and people garrisoning castles, it's just happening way too fast. And there's not that, you can tell there's that's not much care being put in by George there. He's just not focusing on that, or he's trying to like rush the story. He's like trying to rush these things to happen. Like realistically, like restoring a fucking castle in a few weeks, like I think they even say like, oh, the night fort's going to take 6 months to repair. Like bullshit. Like no way, no fucking way would like a bunch of dudes be able to restore a castle in 6 months. Like not with their manpower and everything. Like those cathedrals that were built and those castles that were built in medieval times took sometimes a century to build, you know, like there's no way that they're restoring the night fort in 6 months. It's just like, it's an insane idea, but you can tell like George is rushed. He's rushed. And he's like, I need these things up so that they can be part of the story. I'm sure at some point they say that it takes years to restore ruins. I just remember them saying that it'll take 6 months to restore the night fort, which I'm just like, okay, dude. Like, okay. with you know, the Wildlings probably don't have too many stonemasons among them. No, that's the thing, is the only that's a very good point, because you only have a certain number of builders. And so the Night's Watch at this point is like 600 people. And so, you know, say a third of them are builders and then they're spread out, like you just don't have that many points. Like you just don't have that many people to do the work. Yeah, maybe the buttered beets are important to the plot. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with you know, obviously all the analysis that we've been doing for years. Like, is every little thing something that's going to come back? On a completely unrelated note, but kind of related. So I have not seen The Simpsons in the past 3 years, but Simpsons fans say that The Simpsons is fucking back, and the last 3 seasons of The Simpsons are incredible. And apparently The Simpsons had a season premiere, and for the season premiere, they decided to do a series finale, which is a hilarious idea. And so in the series finale, which is the season premiere, they just like Bart turns 11 and they have to wrap up every fucking plot line in The Simpsons and bring in everyone as a cameo and do all the things that series finales do. And so like everybody keeps like turning off the lights saying like, I'm going to miss this place. Everybody's like moving on and for their spinoffs, like all at the same time. And it's like utterly ridiculous. And so it's a pretty funny premise that like, that, you know, you find out that Principal Skinner is moving on and he's going to be roommates with groundskeeper Willie, and he's going to miss this place. And he turns out the lights and people are like, we're in school. Like, what are you doing? And then, you know, like it's a pretty funny idea. But the idea that you could ever have a satisfying series finale for The Simpsons is ridiculous. You can't possibly wrap up all of the plot lines of The Simpsons, and you know, and to do so would just be like just ridiculous. And we're kind of in this situation with Ice and Fire. Like it's really like you got to start now, but like wrapping up these plot lines is just it's just insane. So you know, even sitting here and being like just this one thing, like talking about the fucking wall forts, like giving proper time to Morna White Mask and Herrick and the Great Walrus and Devon Sealskin and the Weeper and Iron Emmett, and you know, each of these characters, giving them a proper like send off in death. When you know, just last week when we were talking about killing Tormund, and you're just like, oh man, are we gonna kill Tormund? But there's so many of those characters. Like there's so many of those characters that you just can't properly wrap up like, you know, in a way. It's I think they did do, by the way, with regards to The Simpsons, I think they did show a scene of Sideshow Bob, like as a radio show, like as a Frasier radio show, like doing that or something, and it being confusing on like why he's there. But that's no. The Simpsons is not ending. That's the joke that the series, the season premiere was a series finale. There's no current plans to end The Simpsons. It was kind of like the 137th episode spectacular. Like it was just an episode that's clearly not going to be the series finale, making fun of the fact that it could be a series finale. And I think they end the episode. I'm spoiling everything, but they end the episode with like Bart wanting to stop everything. So he pisses off Homer enough that Homer starts strangling Bart, something he hasn't done in 30 fucking years, because, you know, hitting children and strangling children is not a fucking thing that's kosher anymore. But in those early days of The Simpsons, like Homer strangling Bart was like such an iconic moment, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, you're like, you can't have Homer strangling Bart anymore. So like Homer strangles Bart for the first time in like 30 years in the last episode of The Simpsons. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, there's no actual plans to end The Simpsons. It's just that they decided to have a series finale episode. Oh man. Yes. Simpsons will last until the voice actors die, if not longer. That's the thing, is it's what's like affordable. Like I understand that the voice actors are making more than voice actors ever fucking made. Like they're the most highly paid voice actors ever, but that's still so much cheaper than putting on a real show. Like an animated show that pulls in the viewership numbers of The Simpsons is just so much cheaper It's like why it's like when people like turn on TV and they're like, why is everything reality television? Well, reality television was what cheaper, or like, than scripted television. You don't have to have all of the, you know, lighting and grips and all this stuff. So he'll never stop the Simpsons. Like obviously it'll stop some point, but I don't know. I mean, it's the same Family Guy too. I mean, Family Guy is amazing that it doesn't even like Seth MacFarlane is like moved on from it. Like he still does the voices, but he doesn't do any writing, producing, show running, anything. He's just like, I'm done. I've got other things to do. Oh, we want to talk about Rings of Power? Oh yeah, yeah. Um, by the way, this is a funny comment. I'll talk about Rings of Power in a second. Weeper and Al Ardim team up. Skagosi come over to the war. King Rick and Al Hartler. Absolute cinema. The problem is the Weeper and Al Ardim are on opposite sides of the continent. Like the Weeper is over here and Al Ardim. If Al Ardim would be alive, he'd be at Eastwatch. But yeah, let's talk about Rings of Power. I don't know how many people have seen it, but Rings of Power season 2 is better than Rings of Power season 1. There are some, unlike Rings of Power season 1, there are some absolute banger episodes. Like there are complete episodes of Rings of Power where I'm like, this is really good. And I'm talking like the ones in the end of the season. There's some cinema quality, like battles, cinema quality acting for a couple, like there's some really good stuff. There's some really compelling characters, especially like the guy playing Sauron is very good. The guy that replaced Uncle Benjen was really good, but the guy who replaced Uncle Benjen, the orc elf, is really good. There are random scenes in Rings of Power season 2 where I'm like, there is a random scene where it's very brief, but there is a horse chase through the woods that is the best horse chase I've ever seen on film. That said, like there's still some really fucking lame lines, and there's definitely some cheesy acting and things like that in Rings of Power and it's all kind of predictable as well. Though, yeah, Adar, the elf, I mean, I will say, like, I think Rings of Power season 2 is worth a watch. Which I think, I don't know if I would have said that about season 1. Like season 1, I'd be like, you can skip it. I think season 2 is worth a watch. There's enough really good action and really good performances in season 2 to click it over the edge. Where I think, Carmine and I were saying like Rings of Power season 1 is like it's like a 5. It's like middle of the road forgettable. Like, Rings of Power season 2 clicks over into like the 6, 7 area. I'm not saying by any means that it's like a fantastic show, but I think there's enough really interesting things on screen that make it worth watching. Some sad things. My favorite plot line from Rings of Power season 1 does not continue on into Rings of Power season 2. The actress that played the MILF in season 1 quit acting to do political activism. She's of Persian descent and wants to focus on, stopping the Iran and what they do. And so she quit acting to focus on that. And it's too bad because hers was my favorite story. But yeah. Yes, Men of the West and Yoyston. Carmine and I will be talking to Yoyston soon. He has to have some free time. I know he's been very busy, like now at the end of the season, like putting up the stuff on his channel with Men of the West. So, but we will be talking to Yoyston soon. Yeah. But when did you recruit her? That's very funny. Yeah, that's the thing is, and yeah, that was her name, Bronwyn. Um, I think they just killed her off screen, which is really too bad. Like Bronwyn, when you think of like the stories of season one, you know, Bronwyn has the best arc, right? She starts as this random peasant woman who then has to rally a village to become an army and become their leader to fight off like an orc invasion, right? Meanwhile, you know, she's got this brewing sexual tension with the elf and all of this. She is head and shoulders like the best character of season one. And then, you know, then she's just gone and she's killed off screen. It is really, really rough. Um, Can you ask your friend Frank Decker to narrate the Thousand World Stories for the book club? I think one was narrated. Star Lady. Star Lady was narrated, but when we see Men of the West thumbnails about season 2, he's just like, why so harsh, guys? The thing is Yoyston is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and so he's essentially like he's too close to the material. Like he has too many like really emotional feelings about this. This is like there was a recent Red Letter Media video where he was making fun of Star Wars Theory, because Star Wars Theory is going nuts about the acolytes and being ridiculous. And then, you know, Mike from Red Letter Media kind of stepped back and he was like, well, okay, I make a big deal when people make stupid changes about Star Trek. I guess I can forgive when Star Wars Theory like freaks out and goes crazy about Star Wars. Now, Yoyston is not as crazy as either of them about like, he's not that emotionally attached. Like he knows a lot about Lord of the Rings, but he's not as emotionally as attached as say Star Wars Theory is to Star Wars, or Mike is to Star Trek. But I think it's still enough that when he sees like lore changes that really piss him off, like that's going to really change the story. While as somebody who like, I know a lot about Lord of the Rings, but I don't really have much emotional attachment to Lord of the Rings. Like I don't really care if there was lore changes. Like I do not care. Like, you know, it's just do whatever makes a good story. You know, I'm going to be more emotionally attached to like Ice and Fire. So I think that's why like Yoyston might be more negative about the show than say Carmine and I. Like Carmine and I like thought Rings of Power season 2 was it was okay. Yeah, it was all right, you know. Yeah, just heard the other week that JR was one of the major primary contributors to Oxford English Dictionary. Yeah. I mean, back then there was only like, keep in mind that like it was easier back in the day. Back in the day, like academia had like four dudes. Like now that like academia is crammed in there, and if you want to get close to the Oxford English Dictionary, there's like a wall of people. But back in the day, it was like 4 dudes, and he's, you know, he just calls them up and he's like, "Hey, can I work on the Oxford English Dictionary with you guys?" And he's like sure. It was a lot easier back then, you know. They all knew each other. Yeah, but yeah, he definitely was working on the, and keep in mind that like back then, like a lot of people just didn't have the idea to do this. Like you guys ever heard of the Brothers Grimm? Like the Brothers Grimm were these 2 German guys who just decided like, hey, there's never been like a German dictionary where you like go through all the meanings and look at the history and etymology. Let's do that shit. And like they did it. Like, and it was just like You know, like back then there's frontiers, there was knowledge frontiers, you know. Um yeah, so yeah, got emotionally attached to Song of Ice and Fire, hate most of Game of Thrones. Yeah, yeah, but you know, you do kind of have to like step back and say like what, you know, what makes good TV and what's exciting. Rings of Power is a little different from like changes to lore in Rings of Power is fundamentally different to changes in lore of in Game of Thrones. Um, because HBO owns all of George R. R. Martin's work, while Amazon only owns The Lord of the Rings. So they actually legally have to contradict the Silmarillion, uh, or else they are in copyright violation, which is this like weird thing, right? Um, that they can't make it the same. Like people are always like, oh, why did they change it? Why did they change it? They can't. They literally cannot make it the same. The I don't know if you remember this. Like a few years ago, the estate for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle sued the movie makers who made the Enola Holmes movies. Okay, and that's because, and the reason is because the Doyle estate, the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle estate, they're a bunch of fucking assholes. Like they have been claiming that they have the rights to public domain stuff for years and sending people bills, and people not knowing better have just paid the bills and sent them money. They are a bunch of like just shitty grifters, right? Now they did happen to own a few stories at the end of the career of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And so whenever somebody did an adaptation of something near the end, they needed, or that contained information from them, they would sue them immediately. So Enola Holmes comes out, and you know, a lot of times when we think of Sherlock Holmes, you can think of the Benedict Cumberbatch extreme of Sherlock, where he's this like house-like character who doesn't get along with people, or you kind of have like, you know, a playful, jolly Sherlock Holmes or whoever. The Enola Holmes totally went with the more jolly, like regular, normal Sherlock Holmes character. And they got sued because they're like, oh, sorry, like the stories of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle clearly show that Sherlock begins like being cold and socially awkward, but then grows to be socially acceptable over the course of the career. And for instance, learning to like dogs. That's seriously one of the things they quote, like learning to like dogs, you know, and therefore Enola Holmes is like copyright violation. And it's complete bullshit because it's like, if you happen to stumble into something that's very obvious, but it happens to align with something that's already written down, you're in violation of the copyright. So with regards to Rings of Power, like there's lore stuff where it's like, why didn't they have this character do this? Or why didn't they have this character do this? Because they're eventually going to marry and have children and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't, because the minute you do that, you are now in the Silmarillion territory, even if it's the logical thing, even if it's the easy thing, like you just don't want to risk it. So they have to do something crazy and different. Now with Game of Thrones, like the changes are completely, you know, done because they're trying to do something that's either cheaper or easier or looks better on screen or whatever. You know, changing Jane Westerling into a sexy foreigner for no reason, but you know, a sexy foreigner did look better on screen. There was some sexy scenes, you know. So, yeah. Carmine says the Joker 2 was a bad film. Yeah, I don't know, you know. Monk is better than Sherlock Holmes. I've seen a few episodes of Monk. I really liked Monk. I'm trying to think of. I think Columbo is the best, though, man. Columbo is definitely better than Sherlock. But Columbo, I mean, Peter Falk is so fucking good that somehow they made that premise like Columbo. What I respect about Columbo, and anybody that's never seen an episode of Columbo, you should definitely watch an episode of Columbo. Like, Columbo has a premise that you would think would absolutely fail. It is against every 101 writing like course you would ever take is the premise of Columbo. And so in Columbo, they begin the episode showing who did it and showing how they did it. The mystery is completely revealed at the beginning. Then Columbo comes in and solves the mystery. Now, like but this is the thing: is Columbo is boring, the anti-suspenseful. But no, like somehow, and maybe there's episodes of Columbo. I mean, I'm trying to think of the number of episodes of Columbo I've seen, maybe a dozen in my life. But the fact that like you could take something that's so out of the ordinary, where you're taking away the mystery right in the beginning, and now it's just completely about, you have to really sell how fucking clever Columbo is. Like there's going to be no faking it, right? Like there's no like, oh, he just suddenly figured it out of fucking nowhere. You've got to really like sell the performance and like how he's getting there and how he's tricking the antagonist and all the sorts of things in Columbo. It's one of the most original, like I've never seen it done anywhere else, where you're just like, this is the answer to the riddle. And now Columbo is going to solve it, and you're going to be entertained by Columbo just doing it. Yeah, no, you're right. Like CSI does the exact opposite, where there's no like, I hate mysteries where you'd never be able to like, there's no hope that you'd ever be able to figure it out. Like, that's not an unfair mystery. I think Cape Fear was like that, where you're set up with a certain number of suspects, and then it's somebody who wasn't even in the fucking movie, and you're like, Matlock. I'm always like, why isn't, because you always have somebody on the stand and then he's figuring out the mystery, and I'm like, why isn't somebody objecting? Like, why are they allowing Matlock to badger the witness? Like, I just can't like watch Matlock without being like, why would anyone allow him to do that? Like, to talk like this. He'd be like, he's got the person that really did it on the stand, and he's like, and then you murdered da 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 da, and you did this and this and this, didn't you? And somebody object and be like, this is hearsay. Like, what are you talking about? What, Tolkien wrote some letters saying the gods and the more magical elements of Silmarillion was BS? Is that true, or are you joking? Are you fucking with me? Because that would be that'd be a great little thing. Subverting expectations out of spite is such poison for all media. I think it's all about how one subverts expectations, right? There's I recently saw a video where someone was talking about subverting expectations in Shutter Island and subverting expectations in Get Out. And with both Get Out and Shutter Island, from the beginning that there's going to be some sort of twist, right? Like, everybody's acting weird, right? So in fact, if there weren't a twist, like he was just feeling weird the whole movie and then nothing happened. Like you'd be like, where was the twist, right? So in some ways, like there's subverting expectation when the subversion is expected. And then there's subverting expectation when like it's unexpected, but there's hints. You have hints the whole way. Fight Club, for example, there's hints the whole way. And then when you get the subversion, you now can you can recontextualize the entire movie. I mean, the greatest subversions are the ones where you recontextualize everything that you've seen, and you now interpret that story completely differently, right? The subversions that I think that we don't like is when there's no hints and there's no recontextualization. It's just something fucking random comes out of nowhere and is like, what? One of the movies I really hate is Vanilla Sky. I don't know how many people have seen Vanilla Sky. There's a Spanish version that came first called Abre los Ojos, but it's Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz and Cameron Diaz. And I'm sure if people go back and say like, oh, there's a few hints here and there, but this is honestly like, it's a movie where he gets in a car accident and then you find out that actually his brain has been downloaded and he's been living in an alternate, he's been living in like a dream sequence, and he can have a new body if he wants, or he can stay happy in his dream sequence forever. Like and it just kind of just comes in really out of nowhere where you're like, what the fuck movie am I watching? Like, this is just fucking weird. So, so there's lovers of Vanilla Sky. So some people will like it, but I was not a fan of it. I was just like, this is coming out of nowhere. Without a Clue is pretty funny. I think it's a very good premise. I think it's on YouTube for free. Yeah. Vanilla Sky is like a fever dream. And it's just like, I don't know, some of the lines are weird. I think they make more sense in Spanish. Like she's talking like at some point Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise have this connection over being resurrected as cats or something. It's something ridiculous. But yeah, so when people think about like subversions, a perfect subversion is ironic. It's a sense that it's like something happens that was unexpected, but it's more fitting and better than had a regular expected thing happened. Like there's subversions like the Star Wars sequels, subverting our expectations by bringing in the Emperor out of fucking nowhere and having the scope what's the fucking name, the scope, what was this? Be nobody. Like that's a subversion, but there's nothing hinted that way the whole way. Vanilla Sky almost got Penelope to become a Scientologist. It's true that they got together for a while, and there was a joke that if they got married, she'd become Penelope Cruz. Did I? Snope. Fucking scum. Like Scope? Snope. Like having Snope be nobody is somehow like, that's not hinted at. Like what's hinted at is that he was really important. You're right that this is George's way. On the third round is George R. R. Martin to add 1,000 clues about everything. So anything and everything is possible. So you seem like a genius, even though you're just leaving stuff open because you don't know. I completely agree. I think that, like I said, the George gardening method is just there. Like we go back to the same mysteries, and we don't really, none of the mysteries really are solid and perfect, you know? I used to think that the Lysa killing John Aaron one was the best one, but now that I go back, I'm like, no, that one has holes in it too. Like, who killed John Aaron? Who sent the cat's paw? Who poisoned Joffrey? All of, like, who killed Little Walder Frey? Like, all of these mysteries. Who wrote the pink letter? Who poisoned the honeyed locusts? Like, there's hints that there's all these different people, and so it could be any of them, you know. And none of the answers are actually 100% perfect, but it's just, but you get to, you know, whatever one you choose, well, there's evidence the whole way, because there's evidence of fucking everybody. Like, you've just, yeah. What the fuck? He wanted to guard them with clues of Chet being a Bolton bastard, though. Isn't Chet from the Riverlands? How can Chet be a Bolton bastard? Is Chet? I don't think Chet can be. Chet's from, yeah, he was from Hag's Mire, and Walder Frey like sends him to the wall. I don't think I think Chet can be a Bolton bastard. Obviously, Littlefinger poisoned the honeyed locusts. They were really meant for Tyrion. See, that's a good theory. So Tyrion was supposed to arrive earlier, but the storm hits. So he figured that Tyrion would be in the box, and he would eat the honeyed locusts, and he would die. And that was really the right answer. Thoughts on the county clerk of Colorado getting 9 years for ballot shenanigans? Yeah, she deserved it. I saw the woman, and she was unapologetic, completely unapologetic in what she did. She absolutely deserved 9 years. Who we got? Carmine. What's going on, man?
They should all be destroyed. This Republican bullshit.
Why Ibn Topper from The Mummy?
This is my face right now every time I have to deal with Republicans now, because just the misinformation, just misinformation constantly. Like, this party needs to be destroyed. Being a Republican should be illegal. I'm so done, bro. I
mean, Elon has ensured us that if the Democrats win, like, democracy is over. And so,
thank God.
you're like I believe that, and I'd like that to happen. So please,
please, Democrats, just end it all, please, if you guys can.
Oh man, only a month away, man. Only a month away.
We'll see what happens. Is it true that you said one time? Someone reminded me of this. Is it true that you said one time you've only ever cried twice in your whole life? When your dad died.
That's ridiculous.
And when democracy failed. Oh, that's what someone told me. I'm like,
I'm a crybaby. I've cried so many times in my life. What are you talking about?
I know, that's what I was saying. Like, I was there when you cried at the ending of Game of Thrones. Like, I was there.
I think I've like never had a pathetic like breakup where a girl's dumped me and I've been like, yeah! You think that's never fucking happened to me? Like, what? What, you think I've never had my heart broken?
I know. This is what I told that person. Again, I was there when the Game of Thrones season 8 ended. You cried. I was there.
I mean, I think sometimes I get misty eyed at like Pixar movies and shit. I think I got a little like teary eyed at the end of what's that movie with the trolls and the Dungeons and Dragons? Fuck.
Shrek.
No, no, there's another one. Uh, it's like he resurrects his dad, but he only resurrects his dad's bottom side. Onward. It's called Onward.
I've never seen it. Huh.
I think I got misty eyed at that. I mean, I got Onward. Jeez. No, I'm a baby. I'm definitely a crier. Always have been. Yeah. A Bug's Life. I don't know if I ever saw the end of A Bug's Life. I think I saw Ants, and I think I saw the beginning of A Bug's Life. I never saw the end. Trying to think. Yeah, like I did think Onward was a good movie though. It was really yeah, it made me cry because I think there's his dad is being his dad's dead, and he casts this spell that brings back his dad for one day. But he casts it halfway, so it's only his dad's bottom side. So his dad's pants are like running around the whole movie. And then at the very end of the movie, he's able to get his dad back for like the final like 2 minutes. And then he realizes that it's more important to his older brother. So he lets his older brother talk to his dad for the last minute, and he never gets to. And I was like, I think I was really, yeah. I was like, oh man, that was really sad. Yeah.
What movie
like,
is this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I'm like getting misty eyed right now.
Bro,
like just
whoever said
remembering
that,
that movie.
What movie is this? Would you say what's Forward?
Onward.
Onward.
It's really good.
Close.
It's a really good movie. Yeah.
A Disney film? Wow.
Yeah, no, like he realizes that the true dad in his life is his older brother, that he never knew his dad. And so it was more important for his older brother to spend that 1 minute with his dad because his dad was actually a father to his older brother. It was a really fucking powerful, like gut punch ending. Like, wow, this is for children. like, oh, Jesus. Yeah. So. Yeah. Why am I? Just like remembering random movies where I'm like, oh, that's.
By the way, how could you forget Snoke, the character from the sequel trilogy that was supposed to be the new big bad that was like swatted away to bring back Palpatine?
You mean Scope?
Snoke.
Bowen Marsh cried when Bowen Marsh killed John. That's true. He got a little misty eyed. That's true. Yeah.
So.
Brooks and Shawshank. That was see, Shawshank subverted expectations by doing almost the exact opposite, by having no clues. But the fact that they're like the opposite clue, the no clue, like they subverted us in so many ways because you're just like they made it seem like it was this movie about finding small joys in little moments. And you're like, oh, what a sweet movie. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, the motherfucker was trying to escape jail. Like there were none of these like small moments of joy. It was fucking, he was trying to escape jail. There were no clues, and it was a great fucking ending. Shawshank is a fucking great movie. Isn't it like the best reviewed movie of all time on the internet?
One of the best reviewed movies of all time, up there with Citizen Kane, which I actually watched Citizen Kane. That was boring. Wasn't a fan.
It's a movie for film people. So like you have to like know about film to like appreciate Citizen Kane, you know, like these long shots and having stuff going on in the background, that's other stuff going on
Mm,
in the foreground and stuff that they've never done. Like it's the first movie to use a newspaper headline to advance the plot, and
mm.
like stuff like that. And so if you watch it and like all of these things are tropes now. So like when you watch it, you're just like, I don't get it. Like what's up with this movie? And you're like, well, you got to remember this is the first time that they did all these things. And you're like, oh, okay. Like that's it.
Let me send you this list of best TV shows, best ranking TV shows of all time, because one of the shows that you recommended to me years ago is on here. Honestly, Mrs. Davis should be on here, but it's let me. Do you mind if I send it to you?
Sure.
It's number 12. It's one you recommended to me eons ago, and you put it on your top list of like 2023, 2022. Here it is. Download that and show that already. Because of course Game of Thrones is number 2, Breaking Bad number 1, Chernobyl number
Oh,
3,
wow.
Sopranos number 4, Band of Brothers I need to
Yeah. Now,
watch is number
now this is
5.
very similar. Oh geez. How do I get this a little smaller? Here we go.
There you go.
This is a lot like when you ask people who the best president is. Like recent presidents get ranked really high, mainly because it's the only presidents people know and they're like in people's memories. So if you ask somebody like who's the best president ever, you're going to get answers like Trump and Obama and even and Biden. You're going to get those, and you're like, come on, guys, like come on, like the best, like really better than like, Franklin Roosevelt or Lincoln, like really guys, like, okay. Um, so I cried when Ben Solo died. But the thing is there was that awkward kiss right before he died. So like the whole audience was laughing in my theater when they had the kiss, like everyone's like, what is this? And then, so when he died, everyone didn't kind of know what to do. But I think I might have. I felt sad when Han Solo died. Okay, best shows of all time: Breaking Bad. No, I don't know if I'd put Breaking Bad that high.
Mm,
Game of Thrones, really?
mm.
Chernobyl's okay, but it's just a mini series. Sopranos, haven't watched it. Band of Brothers has so many people that love it. I understand that like some people fucking love Band of Brothers. I don't think I'm not. It's not my thing. It's not my thing, Band of Brothers. And I've watched a bit of it. It's just not my thing. The Wire is great. I never saw Better Called Saul. Stranger
Better Call
Things
Saul is, I promise you that,
should
fuck,
be
I'm
higher.
about
You're saying
to.
you love Better Call Saul.
I like the later seasons better than the earlier ones because you have one of the best villains in TV history,
Right.
Lalo.
It takes time for a lot of these plots to get good and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, Stranger Things also. I wouldn't put it on there.
Yeah. I mean, Stranger Things. I've only seen season one, but Stranger Things. Sherlock. No way I put Sherlock that high. No way. Sherlock like has so many stinker episodes and so
Hmm,
many things that just don't make any sense. Like why did Moriarty kill himself?
you know what?
Like he answered that question, and you're just like, or did he kill himself? We never know. Um, Peaky Blinders, what is that? Twilight Zone 1959. That's interesting. I would not. There's so many stinker episodes of Twilight Zone that I would never put it that high. Fleabag, is this the one you're talking about that I told you to watch?
Yes, sir. You recommended that to me a while ago.
Yeah.
According to you, like it's good, right?
Fleabag's for me, and I'm in the minority here. I would
Hmm.
say that like so many people say Fleabag season 2 is better. I think I do not like Fleabag season 2, but I think Fleabag season 1 is fucking incredible. I love Fleabag season 1. I'm just not like the whole. This is the same with like George R. R. Martin and the Catholic guilt stuff. Like the Catholic guilt, like over my head. I don't understand it. I wasn't raised Catholic, so when you do stuff with Catholic stuff and Catholic imagery, like it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't hit me emotionally. I'm just, like it. I mean, I'm an atheist, and an atheist that comes from a Protestant family. So like a Protestant historical family. So like I don't get any of it. I don't get the Catholic shit. And there's a lot of movies that push the Catholic stuff. Like a lot of different art. Like it just doesn't hit me. It just doesn't hit me. But and that's essential like for Fleabag season 2. But did you finish Fleabag?
No. I have it downloaded. I also have Expanse downloaded. You know me, one show at a time.
I know.
Battlestar. I just finished Battlestar. Give me a minute.
You're like, step 1, download. Step 2, wait 3 years. Step 3, watch in a 24-hour period all at once. And you're like, what the I know your fucking
Davis.
System, man.
Hey, that's what I do with Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Davis needs to be at least top 10. I really like Mrs. Davis.
Mrs. Davis was fantastic. Absolutely. Man.
Damon
Lindelof, like, he should be, I mean, obviously he's successful, but he should be celebrated a lot more than he is. He's fucking fantastic.
So I'm gonna have my buddy Bear. He's going to start his own channel soon, but I'm gonna have him on with us. He loved The Leftovers, but he could not complete Mrs. Davis. My theory as to why is that he didn't like that. Hold on, he didn't like that Jesus was in the show. I've questioned him about this. He said it has. Well, hold on. He said it has nothing to do with that. But you have to know, my boy Bear. I've spoken about him before. He's a pastor. And he's like a liberal pastor, granted, but he's a pastor. I think he doesn't like that Jesus runs a bar and fucks. Because in Mrs. Davis, Jesus fucks. So.
Yeah, but it's explained. I mean, it's all there. I mean, it's, he's in her head. Like it's not real. I watched Fleabag in one day. It's super short. That's true. You can watch Fleabag in one day. It's
Look at you, get on my case. Like, you
can watch Fleabag in one day. I mean, I get it. The thing is Mrs. Davis is so much more entertaining than Leftovers. Like Leftovers is
I agree.
Wonderful, but it's also brutal to get through. Like it's hard to get through because it's emotionally taxing. Mrs. Davis is entertaining as fuck. It's so entertaining. Like it's so good. Like, I don't know how anyone would not be able to get through Mrs. Davis when like every episode is so fucking entertaining. I don't know. Dark is my favorite show. Dark is also emotionally taxing. Dark is incredible.
That's on the list.
But man, it's a lot to take. It's a lot to take.
So I have Dark, Fleabag, and The Expanse. So people are nudging me to do Expanse after Battlestar.
I mean, do Fleabag first
because it's short.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 6 episodes of 30 minutes or something.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
like this is like British TV. Like seasons are 6 episodes, and the episodes are like 30 minutes.
Oh, British TV. Oh fuck, I have to deal with that accent. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. So.
Hello, bruv. In it.
What's that?
Nothing. Continue. So, Fleabag, Fargo.
People say Fargo is really good. I mean, I've seen the movie, but the only emotion The Leftovers made me feel is frustration. I mean, the thing is, the frustration is the point. You have to get to that. You have to kind of understand that, like, not answering the questions and having the frustration is the whole point. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the metaphor. I mean, the metaphor of The Leftovers. Did you ever watch the Leftovers, Carmine, or did you just kind of take my word for it? Carmine?
Yes. What did you say?
Did you ever watch The Leftovers? Did you watch any of it?
No. Oh God, no. Oh my God, I can't. I need the answers.
But I mean, the whole thing is like, so I mean, the premise of the Leftovers is that one day 2% of the Earth's population vanishes, and the protagonists of the movie do not have anyone in their family disappear. However, they're all one step removed from people that had people in their family disappear. And the mystery of why the people disappear is not ever given. And so all of these religious cults have erupted around the world, uh, like about the disappearance. And the story is about the leftovers, like the people, the 98% who are still on Earth. But of course, the fucking metaphor of the whole thing is every year 2% of the planet disappears. Like there's no like that's life. That's exactly what happens in life. 1 to 2% of the population disappears every year. Like that's what happens. They die. And yes, religious cults are around to try to explain it and causing trouble. Like that's the whole thing, right? And so when the end of the show comes and they don't really give an answer to it, yeah, that's the point. Like that's the point. So nonetheless, like I understand the frustration, but that's the is the Leftover better than the Left Behind movies? Oh my god, it is. And I've seen all of the Left Behind movies, by the way. I watched them years ago to try to write a cracked article on them or something, but they are so bad. But the 2% that disappear every year is not random. Yeah, it's true. I suppose most of the 2%, it's coming, unlike the random in the Leftovers. But obviously it's it's not a perfect metaphor. Is it derivative? I mean, the premise is derivative. I think there's a whole bunch of other things about people that disappear. I mean, like I say, any kind of rapturing kind of plot or whatever. But it's what's beautiful about the Leftovers is just the character work and the acting and the emotion of the show. Just the and the cults are really fun. There's these crazy cults like the so like the reason like none of the family has like got taken, but his wife ends up joining. The protagonist's wife leaves him so she could join a cult called the Guilty Remnant. And the Guilty Remnant, for some reason, they wear white all the time and smoke, and they just stand around smoking. And it's like it's there's some funny stuff here, but yeah. And then so he moves on with his life, and he dates a woman who, unlike him, who had none of his family disappear. By chance, her husband and her 2 children all disappear. And she's just devastated because like her entire family is taken, and so it's like his family is taken from him for different reasons. Like his daughter and son are also dealing with things. And so he feels like his family's been taken, even though even though they haven't been taken. And she's devastated because her entire family is taken. So Kevin and Nora's like the love story of Kevin and Nora is one of the most honest, beautiful, brutal love stories. And I fucking love it. I love the relationship of Kevin and Nora. Like, because they start, it starts from the beginning, like them being flirty, them getting together, and them being in a relationship, them having this like big breakup, and then them getting back at the end. I don't know. I think it's a pretty fucking great show. Anyway, but it's also based on a book and Leftovers, but and I think it was better than the book, people say.
Fargo, Annex's House.
Oh, right. House. Now, I've seen episodes of House, but I know House mainly from my wife telling me about it. And she loves it, but at the same time, she admits that like it's fucking kind of bonkers near the end and ridiculous. So like, what are you gonna do? So I don't know. but also keep in mind that like I come from a family, like a lot of people in my family are doctors, and they don't like like TV shows where everything's a zebra, as they say. You know what I'm talking about, Carmine? Do you know what a
No,
zebra
explain that.
is in medic
I
in
know what I know
medicine?
what. Oh, in medicine, I was about to touch on the animal. No, in medicine, no.
So there is a saying in medicine, when you hear hoofbeats, don't look for zebras. And so this idea is, if somebody comes in with like a rash, like don't think it's some like obscure disease that affects like one person out of a million. Think it's probably poison ivy, you know, and that's the best way into medicine. Like, while house, everything is a zebra, like, right, like everything is the most obscure thing like on the planet, and they're just kind of like walking in and they're like, well, what is this? And they go through all of their completely obscure uh, uh, diseases, you know, and nothing, you know, the premise goes against like kind of the very principle of medicine.
Yeah, that makes
um
sense. Yeah, that's true. Every
the
episode.
zebra thing
Yeah.
is from a Scrubs episode. No, like zebras has been a term used by doctors for like 100 years. It's a saying used by doctors for 100 years. But I will say that Scrubs, from what doctors say, Scrubs is the most accurate portrayal of doctors that has ever been put to screen. That like they just get kind of basic things correct that they don't, that other things, like for instance, most shows don't understand the difference between the ER and like regular patients. They don't know the difference between like residents and doctors. Like everybody is just doing stuff. Like ER doctors are doing surgeries and stuff like this. Like none of it really makes any sense. Like Scrubs is the only one that actually has like, oh, there's a difference between surgeons and internal medicine. Oh, there's a difference between a resident and a doctor. Oh, there's a difference between like inpatients and like ER, and like, oh, like the fact that Scrubs, a weird ridiculous comedy, gets it right, and every other doctor show on earth gets it wrong, is, or like who's chief resident and things like that. Like I think Grey's Anatomy treats chief resident like anybody could be chief resident. It's like, no, like chief resident's just the guy who's about to end his residency. Like you have a certain number. If you have a 5-year residency program, you've got 5 residents, and the senior resident is your chief resident. Like that's just how it works. Like they get everything kind of fucking wrong in all these shows, and Scrubs is the only one that gets things right. It's the only one. Um,
Love Scrubs. Scrubs is so good.
Scrubs
So
is really
fucking
good.
good.
It's a really good show.
Amazing. That it should be on this. It should be on this list over Friends. 100%. There
Yeah.
are other shows way better than like I
Oh,
love
fucking
Seinfeld.
show that made me cry. Like the fucking episode where Dr. Cox like um try like where all of his patients die in one day, and they have this like montage of them all dying. You know the one I'm talking about?
Of course, I've seen Scrubs multiple times. Or the one with Jordan's
They have to
brother.
save the life. Oh my god. And they're
Jordan's
like,
brother
and
played
like
by Brendan
JD
Fraser.
keeps trying to
That one.
comfort him. He's like, oh, it's fine. You know, you saved 4 other people. And then one more dies. And he's like, no, it's still a good call. And then like another dies. And he's just like, all right, I got to go. Like, that's done.
I hated the final season, but there was one where JD and Turk bond over this one man who's also dying, and his last request is a beer. That one is great. Jordan's brother, played by Brendan Fraser, that one was great too. So many
Wait,
good
they had
ones.
one where a girl got pregnant without sex, like Jane the Virgin style.
Yeah, JD impregnates fuck, who's that woman, that blonde, she was in Hunger Games, not Jennifer Lawrence, the one that wears like the crazy makeup. He masturbates on a lawn chair and she sits on it, and there it is.
That's stupid.
I know, it's dumb. That's, or at least that's what he said. That's happened. So
Oh, so it's like, yeah, so he probably actually did have sex with her, is what you're saying.
probably.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I yeah.
Yeah, they did ruin Scrubs by bringing it back, right? They had a last season, and then they brought it back for a couple
With all
more.
new interns, yeah, it was not good.
Um all right. So where were we? House, Friends. People love Friends. People love it. I think Friends is a pretty good show. There are definitely jokes in my head from Friends that still live rent free because there's just there's because there's so much of it. There's some stupid Friends though, but there's some good Friends. There's some really good episodes.
You know what show needs to be on here? Like we got to do top 10, like our list. You know what needs to be on here? Someone just said in the stream chat, Westworld season 1, only season 1. That's it.
Only season one. I don't know.
Only season
Maxwell
1.
said that Westworld seasons 2 to 4 are better than half of this.
Why? Banned immediately, Max. Get the fuck out of here. Contrarian as. My
Jane
man
the
is
Virgin.
insane.
Jane the Virgin is a funny show. It's and I've seen half of Jane the Virgin, but there's so much of it that if you start because it's a soap opera, if you get behind, you can never catch up. You're like, oh fuck, I'm like 4 episodes behind, and they're hour long episodes and stuff, and the show moves so fast. So, but Jane the Virgin was a pretty good show. The her what is it? Her father-in-law in the show is just the most fucking hilarious actor. In that, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with Jane the Virgin.
It's this guy. His name is Jamie Camille. Jamie Camille, and he plays. He is so fucking funny in the show, but it's good. It's good. Jane the Virgin's an okay show.
I'll be very real with you. I haven't seen all of It's Always Sunny, but it does deserve to be on this list simply
It's
because
true.
I know.
Always Sunny is pretty consistently hilarious. Star Trek isn't on here. That's ridiculous. Especially
Which
like
one?
something
TNG?
like something
'Cause I
like
think
TNG should be on here. I mean, I think I personally enjoyed Deep Space Nine more, but the fact that like I understand that TNG is more beloved. But Dark is on here. That's crazy. I mean, just in the sense that like I can't believe that many people have watched it. I mean, it's good. I'm just surprised that like enough people got through it and like.
I'm sorry, and again, controversial, and I'm glad we're on your channel so they can downvote your video instead of mine. But The Office is overrated. You heard it from me first. Office, massively overrated. Massively
Remember when I was
overrated.
talking about how like the click the lights? I'm gonna miss this place. Turning out the lights. Like The Office's finale was a lot like that. It was just like such fan service.
Honestly, every show from like the 90s was like Fresh Prince, The Nanny. I think Friends was kind of like that too, actually. Like
Yeah,
every show.
right.
Was it Frasier like that?
I think so. Like somebody has to move. You know, everybody has to have their story. Cheers was like that.
Oh, Cheers, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Hey, by the way, real quick, before you move on, you know what show I've never seen? Well, actually, no. I've only seen one episode, and it was the finale. It's a show you've mentioned before. It's possibly one of the darkest finales of any show I've ever seen.
Huh.
Quantum Leap.
Oh, that finale.
Dude, that finale was so. I used to. I used
don't know
to
if it
come
was
on the
dark.
sci-fi.
It was sad.
Him never finding his way home, and that episode looking like it's from That's the only episode I
But
ever
he
saw.
never finds his way home because he continues to want to help people for the rest of his life.
That's not how I saw it. I saw it.
No. Do I have to explain this? They're very clear.
Explain it.
They're very clear.
Are they?
At the end of the episode, he says, Sam, you have to accept that you're the one like choosing where you leap.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually, like, he originally thinks that he's leaping randomly, and then he starts leaping into things that are relevant to himself. He starts leaping into people near his family. He tries to save his brother in Vietnam and his sister and his parents. And he starts leaping to things very significant to his own life. So he realizes that it's not random. And then at the end, they tell him like, no, like you have control over of where and when you leap. And he's like, oh. And he's like, so where do you want to go? And he's like, I know where I want to go. And he leaps back to the wife of Al and tells her straight up, your husband isn't dead. don't move on and like fixes Al, like fixes Al's life.
So let me explain real quick. The reason I got that, I got this again. First episode I ever saw was the last. The reason I got that sense is because it sounded and looked like he was in purgatory, and that he was just the reason he never got home is because he was going to stay there forever.
Well,
Again,
that last episode was a weird. It was a weird purgatory, but I think it was like a purgatory of his mind.
ooh, I like that.
So I mean, there's some weird episodes of Quantum Leap. There's some odd ones. I'm not saying it's the greatest series ever. It's okay, but like that last episode is very memorable for me because it was so out there, and I remember the ending very clearly. But like he shows, so he can time travel within his own lifetime for some reason. This is like the premise of the show. So in that last episode, he's on the day he was born in a bar. And when he looks in the mirror, he usually sees the person he's supposed to be, the body he leaped into. But he looks in the mirror, and for the first time in years, he sees himself. So he's leaped into himself on the day he was born, and none of that makes sense to him. He hasn't seen his reflection in years. And so he's talking to everybody in the bar, and a lot of them are like, they look like people from previous leaps, which makes no sense. And then he eventually has this conversation with the bartender and realizes that this is all a creation of his mind and he can leap wherever he wants. And so when it says at the end, like at the beginning of the show, they're like, Sam is just trying to get that final leap, the leap home. And then he realizes at the end that he never wants to go home because he always wants to keep helping people. He leaps forever. Yeah. But that's the ending of the show, man. It's not really dark. It's just sad. And like,
well, again, I've only ever seen the last one because I used to watch Sci-Fi Channel, and sometimes what I wanted to watch, I had to wait for that show to end, so I wouldn't just like click on and click out of the show. And I know the premise is that he's always leaping, but his whole goal at the very beginning, didn't he always state that his whole goal, his main one, is to go home? But what you're telling me is his love of helping people is stronger than his
goal is to
goal to go home.
Make right what once went wrong, and each leap hope that his next leap is the leap home.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So he'll never go home ever.
Because he keeps wanting to help people
until the end of time.
Until the end of his life.
Oh.
No, I mean he eventually like ages and dies.
Oh, okay.
Like he just keeps leaping for the rest of his life, helping people. However, the show is also weird because Al tells you like what happens to people, and then Sam will go back and change history and change the timeline. So he like blinks people out of existence constantly. Like he'll say like they'll be like he in one episode he goes back to, I think he goes back, he leaps into his younger self, like himself in high school, and his like childhood sweetheart, he finds out marries some woman, has a couple kids, and then gets divorced. And they're like, oh, what a horrible life. Let's make sure she like has a better one. And it's like, wait, so she doesn't marry the guy in the end. But it's like, what about the couple kids they had? You just like you just blinked those kids out of existence. Oh man, weird. There's a lot of weird stuff they do in Quantum Leap, but you just don't ask questions. You don't ask questions. He was consciousness time traveling. Couldn't he leap back to his own body at the end, like no time had passed at all? I suppose he could have done that. They never address. They talk about it a few times in Quantum Leap, but they never address what happens if he like fails at his mission. Does he stay in the body forever? And you never know. You never know. Yeah. Can we? I think someone said, "Can we talk about the forts again?" I don't know if anybody has any questions about the wall, man. It's still here.
No.
It's still here. I went over it.
No, nobody has any questions.
Fucking wall. If there's going to be maybe a battle between the Night's Watch and Stannis' men versus the Wildlings, is Wildling going to meet Wildling when the Weeper's forces sweep across? So the Wildlings going to fight Wildlings? I don't know. No. Anyway, Dark, The Office. I do think The Office is overrated as well. Um, Considering it's like 500 seasons, like not every season and not every episode is any good.
Of The Office?
Yeah.
So do you remember like that one? Actually, that those couple of months, everyone begged you constantly to watch Succession, and you gave it a shot, and you're
I
like,
watched season one. It was fine.
eh,
I just didn't have the energy for more. I mean, I
that's
get
fair.
it. Like, and now that like we found out who won, like, I don't really have the desire anymore, you know. So, worst castle name on the wall, Oakenshield. Oakenshield is the worst one. Fucking Oaken. Like, you already have a fucking island named Oakenshield, George. Okay, you fucked up. You named two things Oakenshield. The worst one. Fuck Oakenshield. Oakenshield's getting fucking burned down, man. Oakenshield, like we just why have two things? Why have two things? We couldn't come up with another Oakenshield? Plus, is Oakenshield like is that in Lord of the Rings? Yeah, Thorin Oakenshield. Like you need two Oakenshields? Fuck Oakenshield, man. What's your least favorite fort on the wall, Carmine?
Oakenshield, of course. Fuck the Oakenshield.
Look at number 19. It's seriously Battlestar Galactica. That's hard to believe.
Yes, well deserved. That should be up more.
I don't believe it. I don't know who they fuck they're talking to. Like, this is hard to believe because like why, like, seriously, when we're talking about like interviewing people, like wouldn't people be like Frasier or something? Like, wouldn't there be people that love Frasier? I'm not saying I love Frasier, but wouldn't there be people that loved Frasier or people that love Big Bang Theory or something? Like, why wouldn't
No, they don't have Cylons. No.
Why wouldn't Big Bang Theory be on this? Like, that show was like insanely popular.
Because Katie Sackhoff's not in it, clearly. Battlestar needs to be up.
This list doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't believe it's like real. I just don't believe it's real.
Well, it's the best ranking TV shows of all time.
So this is from like ranking the different sites and then doing a full thing based like they're kind of 538ing the rankings, right? And
Something like that, yeah.
Putting them all together. But how do you weight these? I mean, you're really going to weight a bunch of websites I've never fucking heard of on the same level as Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb? Like, how are these things done? How are you weighting these things? Because like then you see things like, look, on this one site, look at this, on this one site, whatever this fucking last site is, Game of Thrones has 100% and Battlestar Galactica has an 8%. How is that possible? Like, this kind of shows that like review bombing is a fucking major part of your ranking systems. So like what shows people like choose to review bomb and review hype is going to be a huge thing, right?
Oh, you brought up a great point. We are never going to get another show ever again that's ever going to have a decent user rating. Everything's going to be review bomb. The moment you add like a black person or a woman in a position of power, that's over. It's done.
That's true. It's true.
It's pretty much done.
I mean, the thing about Dark has a trans character.
Yeah, but no one's seen Dark, so of course they don't care. You put Dark on your title of your video, you think you can get that many clicks? Maybe.
No, I don't. Someone did ask me about Berserk. I do think that like on if I was really just focusing on making money, I think anime channels would be like the way to go. Like when I see the amount of clicks on anime stuff, like Attack of the Titan and stuff like that, like stuff that's just like people rambling and talking about nothing, when it's anime, it's just hundreds of thousands of clicks. I think that's the way to really uh, make uh, make money on YouTube right now is anime stuff. But like,
Well,
yeah,
well, first off, I'm glad you mentioned Berserk because episode 2, late to the party on your channel,
yeah.
Berserk.
Now you can't require me to watch to read everything from
Oh, I no
Dark.
no
I
no,
mean
I got you.
from Berserk.
No no,
Do
I
you want me
got
to
you.
read or do you want me to? Is there a show you want me to watch?
This is a very complex question. Do you want to read the manga slash comic? Would you be okay reading from right to left?
Yeah. I'm fine.
Some people get like some people don't like it. I've tried recommending Berserk to some people. They can't get over reading right to left.
I mean, when I pray and I read my Quran, I go from right to left. So, um, and when I read my my ancient Chinese, my ancient Chinese poetry, I also read from right to left. So,
Of course.
I'm very used to going right
Well,
to left.
I'm very down for late to the party episode 2 Berserk. That would be great just to hear your thoughts on it. It is up to you though. So here's the problem. Obviously, the manga contains everything. The Berserk show from the 90s, it's fine. The one from 2016, 2017 is human garbage. So the best way to really absorb it would be to read it or the abridged movies. The abridged movies don't contain everything, just enough, just what you need to know, which is fine.
The Berserk writer passed away before its ending. So there's a dude finishing it, right?
His best friend, we covered this. His best friend is finishing it.
Okay.
He told his best friend what happens, like going forward until the ending, and they're coming together with the
In a
assistants, and they're
hotel
finishing.
room, and he's like, Shireen gets burned, and Bran's gonna be king, and he's like, yes,
I
yes.
mean, no, but would you want to? Because I can help you with this. Would you want to do late to the party episode 2,
Sure,
Berserk?
that sounds good. You send me what I can find, and then
I got you.
um, does Preston not speak Arabic? I speak a little bit of Jordanian Amia and a little bit of Egyptian Amia. More Jordanian Amia than Egyptian, but I can obviously like sound out Arabic because I know the Arabic alphabet, but like when you joke about like the Quran is written in Fusha, which is incredibly complicated and like grammatically and using a completely different vocabulary that's all like ancient and shit. So it's like it's like imagine like studying and becoming fluent in English and then somebody handing you Beowulf. Like you just be like, it still doesn't fucking make any sense to me. Or even not even that bad. Like imagine like learning English and then someone handing you Shakespeare. You're still not gonna fucking get it. Like that's the Quran. So like the joke is like reading the Quran, like to being able to understand the Quran, you need to be like an Islamic scholar. Like no one understands the Quran. It's this poetic, thing. So in a very old language. So it's people claim they understand the Quran. They memorize passages, and then they're like, yeah, I know the one you're talking about. And then they spew it, they recite it, and then they're like, what that means is, and you're like, oh really? Is that what it means? Like um a Song of Ice and Fire anime, maybe one day. Um the Did you see Carmine? There's this piece of shit product on Max
Jesus,
called Rick and
Velma.
Morty, the Rick and Morty anime.
Oh yeah, I'm ignoring that. That's so bad. That
I
I
watched 15 seconds of it and I was like, this is horrible. Oh my
yeah.
God. Immediately shut it off. I was like, this is just not good. Why
Rick and
did they
Morty
do
itself has become a victim of its own fame. Like the
Mm.
earlier seasons are great, but later seasons, you can really dumb it down to one of 3 episodes. A stupid parody of another show, what Rick can turn himself into, or one of the very rare like story driven emotional episodes, like the Vat of Acid episode's amazing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and then you have Pickle Rick or Rick turning himself into a foot or something stupid.
I
Like
mean,
it's
you're right that like there are Rick and Morty episodes that have really clever premises, like a Star Trek episode, and then there's kind of meme episodes like Pickle Rick, you know.
yep. Hmm.
Um, and so it's like I like the ones that have a really cool premise, you know, really, but not necessarily the ones that are memey. Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean Arabic is really Arabic that you study in school is really really difficult and it's really really useless, which is really sad. So the history of language in the world has always been about finding common tongues, right? So like after Rome fell and even before Rome fell, like Latin was Latin, you know, they're trying to impose Latin on the entire Roman Empire. Whether how much people actually spoke Latin is kind of unknown, but what we do know is that after Rome falls and like Latin starts evolving away, and it starts evolving away on the city to city level, each city speaking a different language. And so at some point there's like consolidation. And so like the people in Toledo and the people of Paris, you know, we draw a line down the Pyrenees and you kind of say, okay, this is France and this is Spain. We're going to speak the language of Paris and we're going to speak the language of Toledo. And you know, Germany is the language of I think Hamburg and, you know, whatever, you know. And then there's a process of like education with schools and everything, getting everybody to learn the same fucking language. And so in China, you know, they took the language of Beijing, which is Mandarin, and tried to get everybody in the country to speak it. You know, in India it's Hindi, though everybody was already knew English, so they kind of still use English. And so with the Arab states, everybody speaks a different Arabic, so they're like, okay, we got it. Modern standard Arabic. And it's really, this is like, and it's based on classical Arabic from the Quran. It's Quranic Arabic, and everyone will learn it. And it will be the common language between all of the Arab states. But the difference is like modern standard Arabic is 10 times more complicated than like the regular Arabic languages that people speak. Like it's just the grammar is insane. The words are all archaic. Like this isn't like teaching someone Pidgin or teaching Esperanto that are like purposely simple languages, you know? Like this is like you're like, let's make the common language the most complicated, difficult to learn language on the fucking planet. And of course it was unsuccessful. Like, you know, like nobody speaks modern standard Arabic except for like, you know, really educated people, the politicians, stuff like that. So it's so yeah, you can go to school and learn Arabic, but you're learning this like really complicated Arabic that only like really rich people and politicians and like news people speak. So it's just what they should have, I mean, if they really wanted to have if the Arab states really wanted to have like one language, they would have just chosen Egyptian EMEA, because the Egyptians were shooting out movies anyway, and just chosen to all speak Egyptian. But that didn't happen. They didn't happen. Um, uh, 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 uh. Are there any north, south, Westeros dialects or slang terms? There doesn't seem, I mean, we know that there's an accent of the north and an accent of Dorne, but other than that, there doesn't seem to be very much. There's nothing that we kind of know about. It doesn't make any sense that the common tongue, like that, there's just, unless the mace, like even if you were to argue that the maesters had a big conspiracy to educate everybody in the same language. Like that's only going to be the lords. Like how are you getting to every little village, every isolated place? You could say, well, maybe the Septons are doing it. Like there's just this brutal Septon, like, no, everyone in this town needs to speak the common tongue. But it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then, but even if you're accepting that was a vast Septon Maester conspiracy that somehow got into the North, even though they're with the old gods, somehow they're also speaking it north of the Wall. So it's just, it's completely dumb. It's completely dumb.
So, real quick, do you mind if I
Sure.
need to butt in for a second? I said this months ago. I'll have to say it again because we were talking about Berserk, and therefore everybody and their mothers wants to recommend you something to watch. The reason I feel comfortable recommending you something is because I've known you for years, and I know your tastes, and I know you'd probably like something, just like how you've known me for years, and you knew for a fact that I would love Mrs. Davis, and you were correct.
Yeah.
So, even with Fleabag, how much you like it, you said that you would like it. You never imply that I would. So you know me well enough to recommend.
I think you'll, knowing you, I think you will like Fleabag season 1 and also have Fleabag season 2 be over your head. Like just as I was like, it went over my head. I just didn't get it.
Honestly, the fact that you said it was like 30 minutes, yeah, that makes me inclined to like move it up a bit more. But the reason I bring this up is because everybody and their mothers love to recommend you stuff because they like it, but they don't know you well enough to know that you would like it. Mm-hmm. Perfect example is One Piece. I'm sure you've seen it all the time. I think Bookborn recently did something on it, I think. I love One Piece. I would never recommend it to you.
Because
Because
there's definitely shows like that where like I love it, but I know my wife would not. I know that you would not like certain things. Yeah.
Well, it's not only that, but from a YouTuber perspective. So this is, with me, it's different. With you, it's not. You have limited time. And if you're going to watch something and potentially cover it, the return on investment kind of needs to be there, if you catch what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to watch 1,000 episodes of One Piece, you better get a lot of return on investment for that, which you're probably not going to because you don't really do anime. So
Right. I mean, I also get that, like, yeah, when somebody recommends like some show that's like, even getting through Dark took fucking forever. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was like from a content perspective, I don't think it was, it certainly wouldn't be worth it. And
and I know some people are going to kind of feel a certain type of way about that because you got to watch something because you got to make money off of it. Well, no, but at the same time,
I mean, I literally like on most days I have like 45 minutes of free time. Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you might as well get something out of it, which would be making money to help your kids go to college or, buy your wife.
But it's like I get a lot of enjoyment. So I get a lot of enjoyment from. So one of the big things about like media and entertainment is it's not just something that entertains me. Like it's something that when you watch it, you can now connect with another human being. Okay. And so like part of my channel is like connecting with like other human beings and it being fun because you're connecting with other people. Right. So like me, for example, like let's say somebody like recommends this incredible, Indian movie. Like, yeah, I could watch that incredible Indian movie, but no one else has fucking seen it. So now I can fucking talk to no one about it. And I can say to somebody, oh my gosh, you've got to watch this one. And they're not going to. And it's just like, well, I've now seen something. I've had an experience that is completely private. And private experiences are fine. And some people enjoy private experiences. But like, it's nice to have a connection, right? And so,
You're not going to have free time for another 10 years, maybe 12 years when your kids are like old enough to like, do stuff by themselves, maybe.
Yeah. My Egyptian amigos tell me understanding other North African dialects is much harder than to the East. Yeah. I mean, people famously say that like Moroccan Arabic is utterly, completely indecipherable. So like when you talk to different Arabs, they'll have different opinions. But about like how much they can understand of different people. But this goes for like English speakers too. Like some people are like, oh my God, I went to Scotland and I couldn't understand a single person. And I'll be like, well, I can talk to Scottish people and I can make out what they're saying. And so you have these like personal connections, these personal opinions about the stuff. So generally speaking, let's see, let's do map of the Middle East. Got to get Middle East, North Africa in here. Okay. Here's a quick and dirty map of the Middle East. So for the most part, the Palestinians, Jordanians, Lebanese, and Syrians speak a language that's comprehensive to each other. So they usually call that Levantine Arabic, the Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. There's pronunciation differences, and the pronunciation differences are actually kind of large. But like for instance, in some places they'll say like the word for three is talata, but some people say thalatha. So like whether you're saying thalatha or talata, that's kind of a big deal. Like people talk about this with the difference between like Castilian Spanish and Spain versus Latin American Spanish. Like, somebody in Spain will say cerveza and someone in Latin America will say cerveza, right? So like that's a huge difference separated by an ocean, but you'll have these huge differences on pronunciation just a few miles away from each other. Like Palestinians will take A's on the end of words and turn them into eh. So like the city of Aqaba, they'll say A'ebe, and they'll take the ka and make it a glottal stop. While people in Jordan will take the ka and make it a G. So they'll say Agaba, A'ebe versus Agaba. Like big pronunciation differences, but like comprehensive. Like every Palestinian, every Jordanian, every Syrian, every Lebanese, they all understand each other, even though their pronunciation is different. So it's more of like a difference between like an American and a Brit. Like we say things differently, but we understand each other. So then you get into Sinai. Sinai has this blend language that's halfway between Levantine and Egyptian. And then you get into Egypt. And Egyptian Arabic is completely different, but everyone watches Egyptian movies. So everybody kind of says like, oh, I understand Egyptian because I watch Egyptian movies. And then people kind of understand Lebanese because everyone listens to Lebanese music. So you have these two centers of like art, that affect everything else. Then you start moving out into the Gulf, Iraq and the Gulf, which is different, but still pretty comprehensive, like with Levantine, and you're like, okay, I'm having trouble, but I'm still catching enough like words, they can understand, like say like a Jordanian goes to, the Emirates, like an Emirati is completely understanding him, but the Jordanian's going to take a bit to be like, oh, what are you saying? Because this guy's listening to Lebanese music, but the Jordanian's not understanding what the Emirati says. But these guys might speak closer to the Quran. So like maybe if you're educated. So you've got a few things to anchor you. Like if you're religious, maybe you'll understand your Gulf or Iraq a little better. If you listen to music, you'll understand your Lebanese. If you watch movies, you'll listen to Egyptian. You got some anchors. But when you start going other ways, like into North Africa, there's nothing to fucking anchor you. So when you get into these Arabics, like they have no exposure. There's no exposure in music. There's no exposure in the Quran. There's no exposure in movies. So when you get into Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and especially Morocco, people are like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying. It's a completely, utterly different language. It's like an Italian and Spaniard can kind of understand each other. Carmine, you tell me that you understand Spanish, even though you've never studied it, right?
I understand a little bit. Some Spanish speakers are crazier than others. Like they speak way too fast. I think, ironically, Dominicans speak very fast, and I can't understand their Spanish. But
Dominicans slur, and they have real heavy slang. They have a different word for everything. Like
Mm.
it's just slang, 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 slang. The easiest Spanish in the world is probably Costa Rica. They speak slow and clear. Venezuelans speak really fast. Argentinians have the ja, you know, playa de mayo kind of stuff. The Spaniards have the lisp, cerveza.
Yeah. There's some
Um,
Mexicans I can understand, but there's one area of
yeah,
Mexico where they
Mexicans
speak
have
Spanish I
the.
can't
Everybody says
understand.
Mexicans have the nasal. Everybody says Mexicans are nasal like Americans. Gracias, you know. Um, but the Egyptians speak Jamel as Gamal. Yes, so like you've heard of the news Al Jazeera. You've heard of Al Jazeera, Carmine,
Yeah, isn't that
the news network.
yeah.
So Jazeera means island, um, and so Al Jazeera is the island news network. But an Egyptian would say Gazira. They would just say it completely different. So they take the j sound and make it a g sound. So this is kind of funny is my name, Preston Jacobs. There's no P in Arabic. So a lot of time when people say stuff with a P, they say B. So they'll say my name is Breston, which great. My name's Breston. Okay. And so but my last name is Jacobs. Well, there's no j in Egyptians, it's g. So in Egypt, my name is Breston Jacobs. All right. I was expecting a laugh from you, Carmine, but you muted yourself.
Sorry. I always mute myself when I'm doing something in the background. Real quick, you got to be a teacher, man. Like that needs to be like your chill job after you've
Uh,
destabilized North Korea.
and
Like you
and
really
and
need
and earn
your
like $2 as a teacher.
before you move on.
Because Qatar is kind of an island. Is that the idea? Yes, that is the island. That is the idea. Is that it's kind of
Before
an
you move
island.
on, Wumbo here said, "Listen, guys, I can't watch or read garbage because no one else has watched or read garbage because I couldn't talk to anyone about it." Says the man who read Wild Cards. You read Wild Cards?
But wild cards relates to right. Still relates to like Ice and Fire. There's still some steps through it. You
True, true,
know.
true, true, true. Someone had the and I'm sure you saw this. Someone had the audacity to try to call you a grifter. You're the one person in the entirety of the Ice and Fire community who would not be that. You read this man's other works to better understand the current
Mm.
ones. Like that is the definition of not a grifter.
This term grifter. This is. I mean, it's getting to be like. So if you remember way back in the day, fake news was a criticism of like Breitbart. And everyone and all the left wing people were like, "What are we going to do about fake news? Like, fake news is a real problem." And then all of a sudden, the right wing like appropriated it, and then Trump is like, "Fake news, New York Times, fake news, Washington Post, fake news," and all of a sudden, fake news stopped having any meaning. Um, and then the same thing happened with woke, right? Like left wingers were using it to be like, "Oh, no, he's really woke. He's like understanding," and then the right wing like took it and they're like, "Woke," right? The same thing
So,
is now happening with the term grifter, right? Like left wingers on YouTube were like, "Oh my god, these right wing grifters," and now everyone's like, "I'm just going to use the word grifter too," and like throw it at everybody. Like now
they tried
everything's a
calling Sam
fucking
Cedar one,
grifter.
like Sam
Everyone's
of
a
all
fucking
people.
grifter now. Like what?
The way I always saw fake news was my first experience with fake news was many years ago when this one random Facebook page, what I don't even know what they were,
Mm.
they put on their page big news. Rick Grimes actor Andrew Lincoln died, and you click on it, and there's nothing like that. And I Google it, and like, no, he's alive. That was fake news. Like that, like
Yeah.
blatantly fake news. Someone saying they died, but they didn't die. That was fake news. But now fake news has largely went away. Trump doesn't say it anymore, so I guess it's not. It's no
Right,
longer.
because once they appropriate it, and then it stops being cool, and it's done. I mean,
Yeah.
woke is dying right now, but yeah,
God, I
isn't
hope.
grifter more political? I mean, it
Yeah.
applies to a lot of different things. I mean, obviously, a grifter is a person is a trickster who wanders from place to place, trying to eke out money from people by tricking them. So, like a 3 card Monty guy is like a grifter. That's like the classic case of the grifter. In fact, I think there's a John Cusack movie called Grifters where they're like little tricksters that travel from place to place, like trying to earn money, like dirty, rotten scoundrels. Like those guys are grifters, right? That's as like the appropriate thing. You know, they just trying to eke out money. So like it became like these right wing grifters were people that's like they clearly don't believe any of that shit, but they're just trying to eke out some money um, by doing like immoral little jobs to eke out money, like Dave Rubin, right? Dave Rubin, clearly fucking Dave Rubin doesn't believe a goddamn thing out of his own mouth. Like obviously, like the guy used to be on the Young Turks. He's gay. He's adopted a baby. You know, clearly the guy is not a right winger, but he realized, oh, I can eke out some money if I like do the right wing talking points. The same with Tim Pool. Like clearly he doesn't believe that shit, but it doesn't matter. He believes in nothing, you know? So like, I think people started applying the word grifter first for the political stuff. And so now like Carmine and I started using it again because of the political stuff. We started calling like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker grifters because they fucking are. And then all of a sudden it became like anyone who's just trying to get money out of YouTube or something is a grifter.
Well,
And is
it's
saying something
in
they
terms
don't
of content
believe.
creation. Perfect
Yeah.
example is Critical Drinker and Gina Carano. When Gina
Yeah.
Carano first came on the scene in Mandalorian in 2019, he actually didn't like her. In fact, I think he deleted the video, but someone on
Yeah, of
Twitter
course he
posted
did.
a video of a montage of him doing that. So he complained about Gina Carano, and then when she came out about the vaccine stuff and Disney fired her, the very next day he defended her. That's plain grift right there.
Yeah,
It's also someone who
absolutely.
likes to cover something, but they have no idea about it. Like the guys who were calling X-Men 97 woke because of the character Morph, who can morph
Mm.
into any person ever, that has no gender. But X-Men 97 turned out to be fucking amazing. Was it woke? I don't think so, but they were calling it that so they could make money off of it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean
So
they all took money from Russia. We found out, you know, it's
some of
amazing
them.
that they're fucking yeah that I just couldn't believe like they're like it became so obvious with their anti-Ukraine like tirades and stuff like that. But man,
Actually, speaking of Ukraine, someone actually had a question for you here, if you don't mind. Alwyn said, "Can you explain how government funding works and how they're not diverting money to Ukraine? Sick of seeing those lies being peddled."
yeah. Um,
Can you explain that?
well, I'm sorry. Say that again.
This one person says, "Can you explain how government funding works and how they're not diverting money to Ukraine? Sick of seeing those lies being peddled." I'm assuming that's in relation to Hurricane Helene funding. That's the
Oh,
new. That's the new conspiracy.
well, I think first of all, like okay, like how money gets to Ukraine and how assistance gets to Ukraine is done in a process that takes many years. While like what FEMA does are largely like loans and contracting jobs on like a local level um, that kind of happens immediately where they have like a set amount of funds that they can like then use on a local level. I mean, it's very different system. Um, there'd be no possible way because they're completely dissimilar in every way. Like I don't even understand like how the premise could even be worked out. Like we give weaponry to Ukraine. Like that's how it works with them. Like we give straight up weaponry and training and equipment. Like we give physical objects. Like we don't hand over cash. And FEMA sets up contracts with like local aid organizations. So one is a contracting agency, FEMA, while other people have, I mean, technically, I guess they're contractual instruments to have the weapons manufacturers produce weapons to send to Ukraine, but it's completely, utterly, and different in every respect. I don't understand, yeah, how any of that can be conflated. It's such a weird question. Um, yeah, the money sent to Ukraine has been spent. We send the arms; they're built in America, and the workers profit from them. Yes, and in that sense, I mean, even in the sense that the the hurricane funding is also Americans working on these contracts who profit from them. I mean, it's all kind of American American profits. You pay a bunch of Americans, you spend years to pay a bunch of Americans to make a weapon that eventually gets shipped to Ukraine that they may use years down the line.
Hey, by the way, I'm a little upset with you. How come you didn't tell me our side had the ability to control the weather? Like,
Oh
what the
yeah,
fuck?
that's right.
How come you didn't tell me we had that power?
Um, yeah. Is the same process of military assistance going to Ukraine the same as with Israel? Yes. There is one slight difference. There is a an excess weapons pile that's with the DoD that was sent to Ukraine first. That is a different system, and that only went to Ukraine. Um, but after that was exhausted, and it has been exhausted, um, assistance is the same. It's called FMF or FMS if the foreign military sales, or FMF, foreign military financing. But yes, it's the system is exactly the same actually, for sending assistance to Ukraine as to Israel. Um, that happens to be the case. Um, is it illegal to take money from foreign governments for opinions in America? Uh, the thing we have lobbying groups that advocate for various governments that exist in America. So I guess it's not. It probably should be, but oh yeah, do Pakistan and Afghanistan really count as the Middle East? Yeah, that was just the closest map I googled that brought up. I understand that, like, yes, Iran, Afghanistan, like Iran might be Middle East, Afghanistan, Pakistan is probably not Middle East. No, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, yeah. I mean, don't get me started. Don't get me started on Israel. I mean, it's been a bad week, been a bad week for poor Lebanon. Um, um, Ben Shapiro says he would not go to Dave's kid's birthday party. It was the saddest thing ever. That's ridiculous. That's just fucking sad. That's just who fucking cares? Um, the um anyone Carmine's been watching the Penguin. You've been watching the Penguin, right, Carmine?
Yes, very good. I enjoyed
Very
episode
good.
one. He's such a snake. Fuck. He's such a snake. Fuck. He's like a loser Tony Soprano. Fuck. He's such a snake, but it's so interesting to watch. And the
Yeah.
the the mom from How I Met Your Mother, she's in it too. Fuck. She's so hot, and she's crazy too. Oof. You got to get on that.
Add it to the list. Add it to the list, man.
Come on, it's 30 minutes. What do you mean? Come on.
Um, is Stannis going to smoke the Boltons or not? Simple question. So for many many years, I was completely on board with the idea that it's like Stannis is going to win. Um, the show happens, it gives me some pause, and then you kind of have there's that line in the Theon chapter about Stannis being arrogant about Ramsay, and I do kind of think that, like, there is some evidence that yes, that maybe that yeah, it seems set up that Stannis is going to win the Battle of Ice, so like in the immediate sense against the Freys, but you know his arrogance again about Ramsay is something that's striking. Like, why should I fear Ramsay? But I think Roose is probably gonna, like, as in the show. Like, now that we know these plot points, I think George probably really did intend for Roose to get killed. That the snow on top of the Great Hall in Winterfell is right there. Like, Ramsay could have the roof collapse, kill all of the leaders, take control of all of their armies, and be, in a Red Wedding kind of situation, and have all of the armies his, and then continue on his war
Wait a
and destroy
minute.
Stannis.
Wait a minute. Is this a new idea of yours? Ramsay taking out not only Roose but all the other lords from the north
No,
too?
I've talked about this a bit. That the roof seems like it's going to collapse in Winterfell.
Oh, I know. That was I don't know if you remember this. That was like my idea, kinda, because I
Yeah,
can't see Ramsay stabbing Roose out of like nowhere, like in the show.
yeah. Now, this is what I truly believe, that like like the plot points in the show are probably like George's outline. So I do think that, like, Stannis probably was going to win the Battle of Ice, and then Ramsay was going to kill his father and all the other Northern lords, take control of the armies, and then somehow defeat Stannis. Um, and same kind of things would happen in the show. Maybe resurrected Jon Snow going to war with Ramsay. Now, that said, I understand that that's his outline. Logistically speaking, there's not enough time for any of that fucking shit to happen in the books. If you want to wrap up the story in 2 books, no, none of that's fucking happening. And George, in the writing process, would eventually hit a wall and realize that his outline can't fucking happen. You need to have the Weeper or the others just come in and kill everybody off anyway. So, like, having Stannis, like, win or lose against Ramsay is kind of irrelevant, because the others or the Wildlings just need to fucking come in and wipe everybody out anyway. And that needs to happen fast. So it's just, how would you cram all of that in? Like, think about what happens in the show, right? Like, like, in an Ice and Fire sense, like, he has to win the Battle of Ice, Stannis, and then he has to make it to Winterfell. Maybe he goes into Winterfell. Maybe Stannis is treating with the Lords of Winterfell, and then the roof collapses and kills Stannis too. And now Ramsay has all of the northern armies all under his power. Resurrected Jon brings his Wildling army down. They fight, do their thing. That would take all of the fucking Winds of Winter. That would take the whole Winds of Winter to have that happen. It would just be insane. And then what do you do? Like, then Jon has to meet Dany and have that whole thing and have a relationship, and oh God, you'd never get it all in. So George would hit that wall and wouldn't be able to do it, even if it was his outline. And it probably was his outline. The show is fan fiction. I do think the show is fan fiction, but it's also fan fiction probably based on an outline. So
This is a good conversation. I'm down to talk about this. By the way, I hate to break it to you, but
yeah,
we already know what happens to Stannis. We already know what happens to Stannis from a very credible source. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but someone did spoil it. I won't say who. Can I message it to you? It's one of the reasons why I vehemently hate this person.
I forget what you're talking about here.
This person.
Oh, right.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what she said.
So he's talking that. So what Carmine is saying, I'll spoil it because he doesn't. Because
I mean, I wouldn't, but that's up to you.
So back when Game of Thrones aired, and they did the inside the episode after Shireen's burning, where Dan and Dave said that Shireen is burned in the book, Linda then went on Twitter and started spoiling things and said that Stannis will will lose the war but survive and stuff like that. But um, so it's somehow. I mean, he'd lose the battle but somehow survive. Go on to fight another day. But whatever the case, go up and become the Night King at the Wall or whatever. I don't know. But there's just not enough fucking time. Like, and George would eventually hit these things and realize that the plot and the outline that he gave to Dave and Dan is not feasible. It's just not feasible. So he would have to change it somehow. Now, I don't necessarily think that because it's not workable and not feasible, I don't think I can even like put the kind of stuff in the fanfic. Like, I think Stannis, like my fate for Stannis is not necessarily what I think George would do. And fate for Ramsay is not necessarily what I think George would do. You kind of just, what's workable and what George had planned is not necessarily the same thing. Like, it's amazing, like going through logistics. Like, even here, like today earlier when I was talking about like the Wall and what's going on at the Wall. When you start thinking like, oh wait, is somehow Melisandre is going to get captured by the Night's Watch and resurrect Jon by burning Shireen, and then somehow that would cause everyone to follow Jon, but the others are somehow getting it through. Like logistically, how is that all happening?
Well, now we'll never know because the Jets just lost to the Vikings today. So now we'll never know.
True. That's true.
Now we'll never know. I didn't see this. Did you see he has a new blog post? I didn't see this.
Somebody said no. I mean, he had his like Belfast trip.
Yeah,
it came out yesterday. Yeah, I mean, since we talked last, he had his. We knew he was going to write on Chris Christopherson. He did.
Mm-hmm.
Like George really like it is his favorite musician. That it can't really be emphasized enough. Like, a lot of times George is like, oh, this random writer died. Like Chris Christopherson was his favorite musician. And he died, It doesn't even mention Blade. Doesn't mention Blade in the whole thing. I was surprised. Because most people only know him from Blade. But
oh yeah, that's right. Wasn't he Blade's mentor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit. That's where I knew him from. Oh man. That's why he looks so familiar to me. I didn't give it a second thought.
This like famous musician from the 70s who wrote like Me and Bobby McGee, and you did. And you,
I know he's a famous musician, but I'm like, did he do some movie? I don't. What did he do? But no, I see it here.
You didn't know he wrote Me and Bobby McGee?
No, not really. But yeah, he was in Blade Trinity. Like, I knew he was a musician, but I didn't know he was in so many movies. Wow,
Freedom's just
a lot of which I've never seen.
Left to lose. Like that rings a bell.
A little bit, yeah. But have you seen that he's in so many movies? And I don't think I've ever seen any of these. Fast Food Nation, no. Dreamer, no. I've seen Blade, but
first of all, like there was a time like Chris Christopherson was like on this, like he's like on the same level as Johnny Cash at one point. Like now Johnny Cash, like everyone remembers Johnny Cash as a legend, and Chris Christopherson like is not remembered as the same like legend, but he was like Johnny Cash at a time. He got into movies because the Star is Born movie with Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth incarnation of the movie. The third incarnation of the movie stars Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand.
I see it here. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. And then he kind of broke into movies at that point, and then became kind of an actor. So. Hey, Phil dropped in. Phil, you missed. We had a long quantum leap discussion. I'm sorry you missed it. He would have fucking loved it. Phil loves quantum leap, if I remember. Angelina Jolie's dad. Angelina Jolie's dad is John Voight. what? What? I mean, I understand like confusing them somehow, but yeah. John Voight was an anaconda. Yeah, we forget about Midnight Cowboy, or Deliverance. What we remember John Voight from is Anaconda. What? How was Jackie banned for some reason? Did someone ban Jackie?
No, wasn't me. Wasn't Comet Dragon either, so I don't know. You'll have to check it later.
I mean, maybe I was accidentally clicking on something and accidentally hit the ban button.
I have no idea.
Undo it later. I have to figure it out. That's weird. No, I mean, if she was, it was a complete accident. I mean, you got to understand, like clicking on stuff, you can accidentally click the ban button. But man, that's too bad. That's I don't know why that would accidentally did that. Yeah, very very easy to happen, but it'll be she'll be back. She'll be back. Wait, see, also like you can see the scroll happens, and all of a sudden you can jump around. Baby Geniuses 2. Who was in Baby Geniuses 2? Carmine, any last things before I say goodnight tonight?
No. We're going to be talking to Yoyston soon with
Yes.
Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Season 2. That's the whole thing. I gave him someone on Twitter was trying to make Gandalf sound like it was appropriate and it fit. There's like a whole thread. I don't know if I buy it. I sent it to Yoyston to see if he buys it. I know you briefly spoke on it.
Do you want to talk about Carmine and I got early access to watch Rings of Power, and we swear, both of us independently swear, that in our version, the dark wizard was called Saruman at the end. And then somehow I think in the version that came out on Amazon, they cut that scene. And like the showrunners said that like, no, it's not Saruman. Right?
So I asked Amber because she also got it early, and she said, "No, I didn't see that. Absolutely not." And I'm like, "Oh fuck!" And for those of you wondering, well, can't you guys go back and like what? No, there's a time limit.
There's like a ending. It's like a temporary thing. You can't go back.
Yeah. So I swear I saw something, either a subtitle or him saying, "Yeah, it's me, Saruman. What's up, guys?" But I guess the showrunners came out and said that's not him. So I don't know. I don't know.
But like I say, like my big thing, and I did a tweet on this. I was like, man, it would have been so much more interesting is if at the end of the season you reveal that the stranger was Saruman instead of Gandalf, and that the Dark Wizard was Gandalf instead of Saruman. Like that would have been so much more interesting, because then you're like, whoa, how are we going to go from Dark Wizard to Gandalf, and how are we going from like stranger to Sauron? Like that's an interesting story. Now we don't have that journey. We have, Gandalf becoming Gandalf.
Okay, I have to ask you right now before you bounce. What did you think of them saying like, "Thank you, Grand Elf. Thank you, Grand Elf. My name should be Gandalf." Like for me that was the dumbest thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it would have been funnier if they're like, "Thank you, Grand Elf," and then you find out his name is Saruman. Like
But what we actually got in the last couple minutes of the last episode, what did you think? Like, did you like the Gandalf thing? The name?
I was it was just I rolled my eyes at it. I was like, whatever.
Who watched this? Like, how can someone watch this and say this is good? Like, how? I
I
don't
don't know. I
understand.
don't know. I mean, certain things were not as bad as I thought. Like I expected to hate the Tom Bombadil stuff more than I did. The Tom Bombadil stuff happened, and I'm like, okay, you know,
I like Bombadil, but I didn't want him to be Gandalf's mentor slash teacher. I don't. Did that need to be a thing? I don't. Whatever.
yeah. Do you remember Alf TV show? Of course, I think that's what Trump was talking about when he was talking about aliens eating cats. Um, he was actually just remembering an old episode of Alf.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's right.
Oh man. Okay, guys. Hey, thank you for everyone for being with me, and I'll see you guys this next week, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.